Ark of the Covenant. Hebrews 9 verse 4 and 5. Behind the second curtain was a room called the Most Holy Place, for which had the golden altar of incense and the gold-covered Ark of the Covenant. This ark contained the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. Above the ark were the cherubim of glory, overshadowing the atonement cover. But we cannot discuss these things in detail now. Yahweh, in his sovereign rule, chose a people in the loins of Abraham and declared over them, "And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your offspring after you." Genesis 17 verse 7. This was before Abraham had a child. God's choice wasn't based on the righteousness of the descendants, but rather on the grace and power of God to act as the sole sovereign who resides outside the bounds of creation. In the fullness of time, after establishing his covenant with these people, he crafted a system of worship as a sign of the covenant. Chief in this system was the Sabbath day. It is prudent to note that this covenant and the signs that marked them were specific to Israel and therefore classified as the Old Covenant. Exodus 31 verse 12 and 13 explicitly says, "Then the Lord says to Moses, Say to the Israelites, you must observe my Sabbaths. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come, so you may know that I am the Lord, who makes you holy." Within the framework of the Old Covenant we find the tabernacle, which was built to the specifications of Yahweh. He instructed Moses on how to build it and the material that was to be used. He also told him what furniture was to be included and how they were supposed to be built. One of the furniture that was to be included is the Ark of the Covenant. The writer of the book of Hebrews pointed out where the ark was placed in the tabernacle and what was placed in it. Exodus 25 gives us the directives that were given to Moses concerning the construct of this sacred symbol. "They shall construct an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold. Inside and out you shall overlay it, and you shall make a gold molding around it. You shall cast 4 gold rings for it, and fasten them on its 4 feet, and 2 rings shall be on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles into the rings on the side of the ark to carry the ark with them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be removed from it. You shall put into the ark the testimony which I shall give you." Verse 10 to 16. Moses was not to deviate from these instructions. If we are familiar with the measurements used, we will be able to easily visualize the ark. The ark was to be completed with the mercy seat of pure gold, which was to be 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. 2 cherubim of gold were placed at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. The placement of the cherubim and their wings were given to Moses. And Yahweh declared in verse 22, "There I will meet with you. And from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony, I will speak to you about all that I will give you in commandment for the sons of Israel." Israel was to see the ark as a sign of the covenant God made with them, and as the place where God's Shekinah, or the visible manifestation of God's presence. Hebrews 9 tells us that the ark was placed behind the second curtain in the Holy of Holies. God would come down and fellowship with Adam in the garden because he was his creation. God's desire to commune with his people had not changed, but because of their sin, a system had to be created to appropriate for their unrighteousness. That was the sacrificial systems found in the Old Covenant. With this renewal of the covenant with humans, and the realization of the covenant promise to Abraham, Yahweh ensured that he would now be able to meet with his people as he did with Adam. The space between the spread wings of the cherubim would be consecrated for God. It was a place that the divine majesty saw fit to inhabit. This is a profound spatial incarnation by the omnipresent God. He chose to localize his presence in their midst for the benefit of a people who had turned from him. We must not miss the power and awe-striking marvel of this representation. The eternal God who is not constrained by the existence of time, the infinite God who is not bound by the constraints of space, the transcendent God who dwells above and beyond all space and time, and the immense God who fills all time and space, condescended to the weakness of his people, and became manifest for their benefits in one locale. This God is not bound by time, but he bound himself to the time-bound experience of his people. This God is not bound by space, but he bound himself to this box. He is above all creational constraints, but he bound himself to them. He is everywhere, but he was there. Ligonier.com from Daniel Hyde. The presence of the Ark of the Covenant assured people that they would be recognized as a peculiar nation that belonged to Yahweh. In Exodus 33, Moses was sent on a mission to up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham. Yahweh promised to go only with him, but he beseeched God to go with all of Israel so they would be distinguished from the other. If your presence does not go with us, Moses replied, do not lead us up from here. For how then can it be known that your people and I have found favor in your sight, unless you go with us? How else will we be distinguished from all the other people on the face of the earth? Verse 15 and 16. The ark was not meant to be used as an omen of superstition, but the Israelites sometimes missed this and tried to manipulate Yahweh to fight on their behalf in 1 Samuel verse 4. It wasn't the first time the ark was being taken into battle. Joshua used it in the war of Jericho, and we know the outcome was in the favor of the Israelite ark. In this instance, after suffering defeat at the hands of the Philistines, the elders asked and concluded, "Why did the Lord bring defeat on us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that he may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies." The end result was that they were defeated again, and the ark was taken from them. All the people would know by this terrible sign that their invisible king had withdrawn his countenance from them. But the loss of the ark to the heathen taught another lesson, not merely for the Israel of the days of Eli and Samuel, the eternal truth that the living God does not bind his presence to a dead thing. Yahweh intended that the ark would be the place of meeting and not as a means of superstitious trust. Obedience and adherence to his instructions were more important than the emblem itself. Through the symbol of the ark, his majesty and resplendence were to be recognized. His presence was there as an assurance of his sovereign choice. Yahweh had chosen Israel as a holy nation, set aside for him. He would not be aloof, but would dwell in their midst. This incarnational emblem was to be treated with reverence as it was the seat of the Holy One of Israel.